Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Katie Weaver Show. This is Katie. I'm your host. I am so happy to be here. Oh, I missed you all. I missed the show last week. And if you guys know me, you know that's pretty rare. I am almost always here. A last minute little emergency set me off, and I wasn't able to be here. But I'm here now. So I'm happy to be here with you guys. And I want to let you know that we are live. It is the 7th of July at about 11 a.m. Pacific time, noon Mountain. And I am also live streaming this event from my fan page on Facebook, which is Katie Weaver Domestic Mystic. So if you would like to watch, you can do it there. I'm also going to share the live stream into the chat room so you can find it there. The chat room can be found by heading over to 12radio.com. That's number 2 radio.com. Click on the chat button and you'll be redirected into the Facebook chat. So that's how to do it. And I would love to see you over there. You'll see a banner at the top of the page. That is uh, my banner. You'll see that is a really good place to ask questions and contribute to the conversation. Either that or in the live stream. I'm keeping an eye on both streams of conversation, so you can come and talk to me either way. So pretty easy to do. Before I forget, I want to make sure that you guys know that we have a brand new show that is starting today. Today, this evening. You guys may remember Keisha Angel. She's been a guest a few times. She's been a guest on 1 2 News a few times. And she has a brand new show, the Keisha Angel Show, that is starting later this afternoon. She'll be sandwiched right in between the Christina LaFrance Show and the Melissa Fry Show. She is taking Mark's spot. Mark's moving over to Thursday mornings. So please come back this afternoon and show Keisha some love. She's awesome. You guys are going to adore her. We had a long conversation a few days ago about her show and her plans for it, and I'm very excited. You guys are going to absolutely adore her. So make sure you come and give her some love. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, I knew if I better say it first, I'll probably forget. I really hope you guys had a great weekend. We went camping. My town, all of the towns around me had pretty much shut down their 4th of July stuff, because of COVID. And my town was like, oh, well, if y'all aren't going anywhere else, come here. So they extended the parade route by quite a bit. They opened the parade up to all, local areas to come. They put on an enormous rodeo and street festival and a bunch of stuff that, well, I don't want to be a part of because I'm protecting my health. And, if some of you guys do and you're comfortable, that's totally fine. But to me, can't do it. Not yet. So we went camping to stay out of the fray, and we camped on the banks of the Snake River, and we had a blast. This is a spot that I've talked about this place a lot, but it's one of my favorite places on earth. And we had so much fun. But one little breakthrough I had, and I think it's worth sharing because we all do this to ourselves, but I had kind of decided that I guess, a while ago that I am in no shape or fit way to be able to float the river. And when I was a kid, we floated this river all the time in tubes and canoes and rafts and, whatever you could get a hold of, basically. And as an adult, because I have rheumatoid arthritis, I had decided the water's too cold. I can't do it. I can't do it. Cannot do it. So, of course, the kids all floated the first day and had a blast. And it was hot and it would have been nice to be in the river. But again, I'm going, you can't do that. So the next morning, my sisters announced, we're going to go on a short float with the kids and see if we can handle it because they too were convinced they couldn't do it. And I said, I can't do it. Can't do it. I can't put myself through that. No, no, no. So I stayed back and waited on the banks and took pictures as they floated back in. And I was so jealous. And I thought, damn, it makes me really sad to think this is something I can't do anymore. And right behind them floated up these people in this little round boat float thing that had 4 seats in it and looked a whole lot like something I could sit in and do. And I went, and they weren't totally immersed in the water. They had a little water in their boat, but not a lot. And I thought, So I said, hey, where Where'd you guys get that? And they said, Big Five. Well, we have a Big Five. So we donned our masks and we drove into town and we ran into Big Five. And guess what? We bought one. Not quite the same as what they had, but that doesn't matter to the story, actually. But we brought it back to camp. We blew it up. And guess who floated the river twice? Yeah, because I can do it. We're funny how we put these limitations on ourselves, these restrictions on ourselves. Sometimes we forget that where there's a will, there's a way. Sometimes we forget that, maybe what was true once isn't true anymore. But I was so proud of myself that I managed to do that and had a freaking phenomenal time. So I'm still on the hunt for the same boat that they had because that's actually what I want. What we bought worked and it happened, but I still want the thing that's a little bigger and nicer. But, I digress. I'll buy that for sure. But it doesn't matter. We floated the river. I floated the river. And it was so fun. We got up the next morning and did it again. And I'll tell you what, it's so damn hot here right now. I'll probably do it again in the next day or two. I'm just very excited. So, anyway, I only share that story because, well, I think it's always worth us revisiting our limitations, wondering why we put them on ourselves in the first place, if what was true once upon a time is still true, or if perhaps we have changed or evolved, or we have new tools that maybe we don't need to put those limitations on ourselves any longer. It was a very good reminder to me. So, I want to talk a little bit about true crime paranormal. You know that I have a podcast and video cast with my sister Christy, and we are true crime paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. We do have a new case. I actually think I have two new cases, yeah, since I've been here last. So I'm going to share them both with you. We also did some updates on the Daybell case, and you can find them over there. There's been some movement in that case just in charges. So Chad and Lori in bringing charges, dropping some charges, bringing different charges, yada, yada, yada. It's just a lot of the legalese, and it's just the way it's going to go in this case for a while. So no huge bombshells, though I'm predicting that there are some big bombshells coming. However, you can find the updates over there if you want to watch those lives and know what has been happening. But I want to talk to you about two other cases that we've done in the last 2 weeks. So last week, we did a case about a girl named Alyssa Turney. Alyssa Turney vanished. She vanished. She vanished a long time ago now. And it was always suspected that her stepfather did it, though there was no evidence. They've never found her. They don't know exactly what happened to her. And her sister, as an older teen, really started putting the pieces together. They lived in an extremely abusive and confusing, chaotic household that kept both of the girls very confused about what was real, what was true, a lot of gaslighting and psychological manipulation, as well as a lot of physical abuse. But at any rate, she finally figured out, the gist of what had happened and realized that it was her father who had done this to her sister. And she has been fighting for justice for many, many, many years. And she actually just recently, the police finally agreed to take another look at the case and take another look at him. So she's finally started to get some justice, but it's been through speaking as a victim's advocate, through social media, through podcasting, through constantly using her voice. And so we did a story. We covered the Alyssa Turney case, and I cold read the case on what I believe actually did happen to Alyssa. And you can find that over at True Crime Paranormal on YouTube. You can also find it in our podcast, which of course is also all over podcast land. You can find it on iTunes or Spotify or TuneIn, or the only one it's not on is Podbean, and I cannot figure out why. We've tried. I don't know why, but most of the major carriers do carry our podcast. So you can find it there if you'd rather listen than watch. And then we did another case over the weekend called What Happened to Dorothy Jane? Dorothy Jane Scott was a single mother in Anaheim, California that was stalked and murdered, and her case is cold. And I presented that case to Christy, and she cold read it, and it was awesome. So those are the two new cases that we have if you're interested in watching them or listening to them, but there'll be plenty more to come. We are working on rolling out a series of info similar to the Daybell case, though not nearly as long and crazy as the Daybell case, but about the Dior Coons case. So locals know exactly what I'm talking about, but if you're not, this was a little boy, a toddler that disappeared from our area several years ago, and his parents were suspected but never prosecuted. There was no evidence. His body has never turned up, and quite a few people have asked us to cover that case. We don't really feel like we can do it justice in one episode, so we're getting ready to roll out a series of episodes on the Dior Coons case. There were lots of twists and turns with a private investigator that was hired and some of his missteps, and the sheriff and his missteps, and everything that happened in that case. It was really, really intense. So we're going to be rolling that out soon, but we'll continue to bring more, true crime to you guys and do our reads on it, as we can. So there you go. See, I knew I was going to have a lot to say today, considering I haven't been here. Okay, so there's that. I also need to tell you guys that if you won something in my birthday giveaway show, be watching for it by about Friday. It's taken me longer to get everything shipped out than I wanted to for a few reasons. I have to tell you a secret. The lotus flowers that I poured to give away for that show failed. It happens sometimes. Resin is a tricky business, and sometimes it doesn't set up. And sometimes you don't know why. Sometimes you did everything right and it still didn't set up. And in this case, on those lotuses, everything set up except for just like a tip of my finger size circle in the very center on the backs of them. It sucks, but they're ruined. There's nothing you can do when that happens. And so I had to pour a new set, which is totally fine and no big deal whatsoever. But it takes quite a while for them to cure enough for me to want to wrap them in paper and put them in the mail, because I don't want them to stick to anything or be weird. So, anyway, I slowed down our whole process because of that, which kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. So, but I also have to tell you, and this cracks me up, the new ones are so much prettier than the old ones. I don't know what it was about that old set. They just, the ones that didn't set, they weren't the right ones. So now I have this glistening, glossy, gorgeous, absolutely perfect set that's all ready to package up and send out to you guys. So everything's going in the mail tonight or in the morning, and you should be looking for your stuff by Friday, Monday. So there you have it. And thank you guys all again for participating in my birthday in so many different ways. You guys showed me such an enormous amount of love and kindness and support, and I can never, ever thank you enough for all of the beautiful things that were said and done on my behalf. I, I don't know that I deserve the level of love and everything you guys give to me, but I will gladly receive it. So thank you so very, very much for that. Okay. So let's keep moving. One thing we missed was last week was the fairy tale tarot. We do the fairy tale tarot right around the full moon. And normally I would have done it last week, but as you know, well, I was absent. So we're going to do it today. So this is a tradition we've had now on the show for, I think, close to a year. And I really like this segment, and I'm glad that you guys like it too, or at least you pretend to to accommodate me. So thank you for that. But this is the Fairy Tale Tarot by Lisa Hunt. It is a really fun deck. This is a deck that I inherited from my mom, from her belongings, and I absolutely adore this deck. It's just fun. The fun thing about it is it brings us a different story from a different part of the world every single time. And most of them I have never heard. So I'm going to read you the story. This is our reading for the full moon. Now, yes, I know the full moon was on Saturday, so we're a few steps behind, but that's okay. We still have what, 10 days to go. So before the moon becomes new, so it'll be okay. Did you guys see the eclipse? It was a full moon eclipse on the night of the 4th. It was tiny. If you could see it at all, it was a tiny sliver on the side of the moon. So we did stay up, we were camping out in very clear, gorgeous skies, and you could see it kind of. It was pretty anticlimactic. But I did feel like that eclipse washed us a little bit. A little bit. The world is still feeling pretty chaotic. People are still feeling pretty pissed off and mean and on the edge, if you haven't noticed, or maybe you are feeling that way yourself. No judgment there if you are. A lot of people are. And I'm kind of oscillating back and forth from that and just trying to keep my eyes on my own paper and just do my own work. But you guys, you know how it is. We're easily distracted humans, aren't we? So, okay, let's read our story. So I pulled the card right before the show so you wouldn't have to listen to me rifling through the book, though some of you that were in the live stream early actually probably did. So the card is the wheel. Oh, I'm going to drop it. The wheel. It's a major arcana card. The traditional meaning of this card would be the Wheel of Fortune. So if you're not hiding under the covers yet, hold on. That's only if you hate change. I'm a Cancer, so yeah, I do. I'm not doing it. Maybe. I'm going to get my hair cut today. And my daughter said, "What are you going to do with your hair?" And to be honest, you guys, I cut my hair about once a year. I don't do a lot because I don't want to. And I don't like change. Anyway, I said, I will probably take off an inch or two to, take off the broken stuff at the ends and just even it back up. And she was like, "Oh, Mom, you never change your hair." And I went, bro, I probably never will. I like it. What can I say? Nothing fancy. It's just me. And I like it the way it is. But there we are, us little Cancers. We don't change. So, but maybe the Wheel of Fortune is going to force something. All right. The story is The 12 Dancing Princesses. The culture is German. And the keywords from the story are change and movement. So I'm going to read the story and then we can dive in together on interpreting it. So I am watching both of the chats, and if you have anything you want to contribute, please do. Once upon a time, as all good stories begin, there was a cow herder named Michael. He was a daydreamer and would often look up to the sky while he bought cattle to pasture. Brought. He didn't buy them, he brought them. I'll try to get it together. Okay. One day, a beautiful maiden came to him in a dream. She told him to follow the path to the castle of Belial. That's probably wrong. Where a princess was destined to be his bride. At first, Michael was reluctant to listen to his dream, but after 2 more visits by the maiden, he decided to go to the castle and settle his growing curiosity. Michael tied a bundle to a stick and set out on his quest. It was said that in the castle of Belial, it's going to be wrong. It's B-O-L-E. No, it's Beloeil. I'm just going to say the castle from now on. How's that? There lived 12 beautiful princesses with their father, the Duke. The princesses shared the same room and were locked in every night. 12 princesses, most of them probably around the age of teenagers, locked in the same room every night. Oh my God. They didn't have TikTok or Snapchat. They had each other. I'm guessing sometimes this was fun and sometimes it was probably a straight up war. That's what I'm thinking. Even though there was seemingly no way they could leave, every morning their satin shoes had inexplicable holes in them. Finally, the Duke had drafted a proclamation. Well, that's funny. So, teenage girls doing whatever the hell they want. Yeah, yes, indeed. And mostly, I'm pretty cool on that, to be honest. Mostly. Finally, the Duke drafted a proclamation. Whoever can uncover the mystery behind the worn shoes will be able to choose one of my daughters as a wife. Okay, did he ask them? Just asking for a friend. Did he ask them why they had holes in their shoes or what they were doing all night? I just wanted to know. Many princes tried to solve the mystery of the worn shoes. Okay. So again, The princes were trying to figure it out, not by asking the princesses, but by going to every other means. This story seems legit. Okay, many princes tried to solve the mystery of the worn shoes, but all had failed. Michael arrived at the castle and asked the gardener if he could work as his assistant. He was given the task of picking bouquets of flowers for the princesses and delivering them to their rooms. Of course he was. Nice segue. None of the princesses ever noticed the gardener lad, aside from the youngest, named Lena. Michael had another dream. This time the beautiful maiden held 2 laurel trees, a golden rake, a bucket, and silk towels. Plant these and nurture them with the tools I've provided, she instructed. When they are as tall as the princesses, you may ask the trees to grant you a wish. After the dream, he followed the instructions and carefully nursed the saplings. Before long, they matured, and the maiden had said, Please make me. Oh, matured as the maiden had said. So Michael makes his wish. Please make me invisible, Michael asked the trees. Well, yeah, make him invisible so that he can sneak in and spy on the princesses. What kind of story is this? Okay, he's a peeping Tom. That evening, the invisible gardener snuck into the princess's room and hid himself. He heard a great flurry of activity, and the eldest opened a trap door by clapping her hands. The princesses dashed down the stairs with Michael following. They passed through a corridor of silver trees, and then they strolled into the shimmering golden wood, and finally they walked out through a forest that glittered like diamonds. When they came out of the forest, the princesses ran for the shore. There, handsome princes assisted them into boats and rowed them across a sparkling lake. Michael crept into the youngest princess's boat and marveled at the illuminated castle, drawing closer from a distant shore. When they arrived, they went inside a magnificent structure, alive with festive lights and sounds. Michael was awed by the splendor, but kept focusing on the youngest princess, Lena, as she danced with a prince. The princes seemed catatonic and distant, with vacant eyes that were a contrast to their lively partners. The princes were actually under a spell, having been made to drink a potion given by the princesses to help keep their rendezvous a secret. The party went on until the princesses' shoes were worn. Then they climbed into the boats and crossed the lake back to the magical woods. Michael grabbed a silver bough that he found along the way and snuck ahead of the princesses before they returned home. When the princesses had settled back into the castle, Michael gave Princess Lena a bouquet with the silver branch inside. He followed them to the magical castle several more times, each time bringing back a token of his adventure. Each day he would place something from their journey into Lena's flowers. Finally, Princess Lena approached Michael. Weren't we just talking about stalking, Michael? I think we were. You obviously know the truth of our nightly escapades, remarked the princess. Why haven't you told my father? You must know that the reward for solving the mystery of our worn out shoes. Michael remained silent and continued to follow them to the castle. Finally, Princess Lena told her sisters about Michael. The eldest wanted to have him imprisoned in a tower. Well, okay. But after some compromising, it was agreed that the lad would follow them to the ball for a test. Michael accepted the challenge, accompanied them to the castle, and was seated at the banquet table. He was about to drink out a potion handed to him in a golden cup when Princess Lena cried out, No, I cannot let you do this. I would rather marry a gardener than subject you to enchantment. Michael tossed the potion and fell to his knees before the princess, asking her to marry him. This shattered the spell, thus freeing all of the princes from the enchantment. Why? Why did it shatter the spell? The liberated princes kneeled before the other princesses, and some were chosen as husbands. Some, not all. Everyone traveled back through the maze of forests before Michael and Lena returned to the castle. Michael the gardener became Michael the prince, husband to Princess Lena, and together they lived happily ever after. Well, okay then. Okay. I'm still stuck on the fact that some of the princes got rejected. That's funny as hell. Okay. Symbols and meaning. Here's what the author says: it's important to remain flexible and open to new constructs. Repeating old patterns can stifle potential growth and render us imprisoned by stagnation. Instead, expose yourself to the transforming qualities that change may bring and enjoy the rewards that your efforts result in. Okay. Thoughts? Wishes? Demands? Throw it at me. All right. Well, here it is for me. First of all, yeah, Belle says, sure, I'll ask you to marry me after you had me in a thrill. Sure. Why wouldn't you want to marry someone who drugged you and put you in a trance and made you dance with them every single night? Do you think the princes wondered why they were waking up with worn shoes? Also, whose castle was it? They were letting these parties happen? I mean, what kind of a deal is this? They were roofing the princes every night, taking them to a castle and making them dance with them all night long. And maybe other things we don't know. Anyway, all right. Well, let's go on. So, the idea of change, I'm all kind of okay with. The idea potentially of allowing ourselves to try new things, I'm down with. So that's really the message I'm going to take from this really creepy story into the future, is that there is a good possibility for us here in the next 2 weeks to push ourselves to get into a better place within ourselves. If there is something you have been wanting to do, but holding yourself back from, if there is something that you have been telling yourself you can't do, reminds me a little of my float this weekend. If there is something that is weighing on you heavily and weighing you and holding you back, take care of it. Do it. Try it. Find a way. Research. Talk to people. Ask for help. Set some mini goals. But there's a clear pathway right now for us to remake ourselves in various ways. I mean, why not? The cards have been thrown straight in the air this year anyway, right? Is there really a better time to remake yourself or to start something new or do something different? No, there's not. We're in a really good energy for that. And maybe the distraction would be great considering the strife in the world. And maybe, just maybe, you accomplishing something new, something different, something big or something small would be a way for you to prove to yourself that you can do it. So that's where I'm at with that. That's where my thought process is. That was a really weird story, and I probably won't read it again unless we draw that card again. And that would kind of suck, but I'm not in charge around here. I just pretend like I am. So, anyway, that really cracks me up. Anna said, I was waiting for a plot twist, but it got even more creepy. Yeah, right? Okay. I'm going to jump into the other chat here quick and then we'll keep on moving. I'm just really laughing. That cracks me up. And all right. Oh, Pamela, you're killing me. She said that she had just talked to her daughter about her own hair, and her daughter suggested she get her hairstyle up to date as it was about down to my waist, so I cut off 12 inches up to my shoulders. I love it, but it took a bit to adjust. Pamela, wow, that is awesome. Well, the hair debate has continued in this house because Mars is also getting her hair cut today, and her hair is as long as mine, maybe a little bit longer. And she's threatening to cut hers up about to her shoulders, and her dad is absolutely against it. And the reason why, he's not actually trying to control her hair, but the last time she did this, she regretted it immediately and then was a little tough to live with about her hair for a while. And so he's like, you don't like your hair that short. Every time you cut it that short, you end up mad. So don't. So I don't know. It's always been my theory that my kids' hair belongs to them, not me. And if they want to cut it, they want to try to do something different, who am I to say? And so she'll do what she wants to do with it. But yeah, that cracked me up, the part of that story about making mistakes or, having to learn things more than once. And I was thinking about her hair, but, whatever. It's hair, it will grow back, and hers grows at quite the rate. So it is what it is. Belle says this wins as the creepiest story of 2020. Yes, this is true. Yeah. Katie says, do you know the difference between a good haircut and a bad haircut? About 3 months. So true. I don't know if you guys know, some of you do, but my dad was a barber. And so, you know, lots of hair talk happened in our house. He cut my hair my whole life until he died. And then I had to figure something else out, which made me not want to cut my hair for quite a while. And now I go to a dear friend. So it feels good to go to her and let her do my hair. So this is all good. Anna said, I've heard that in some cultures, they say that there's wisdom in hair, and that's why some don't cut it. I'm not surprised by that. And I like my hair long. I've always worn my hair long. Right after I had my first baby, do not ask me what compelled me to do this, but I had some idea that I needed shorter hair. Mom hair. Mom hair. I was 23 and dumb. And I cut my hair short. And if you guys like short hair, please, I'm not offending you at all, or don't let me. For me, I don't know why I thought that I wanted to go from long, long to shorty short. I hated it. I cried all the way home from the salon. I hated it for a year until it grew out to something that was a little better for me. Anyway, I missed it. I missed the something that my long hair is to me. Anyway, yeah, I'm all about that conversation. And again, some people like their hair short. They're more comfortable that way. Maybe your hair's a pain in the ass and it does better short, whatever. Please don't be offended by me. But I definitely like to keep mine long. So it's how it is. So I won't be cutting mine off. I know that is for sure. Okay, but Pamela, I would love to see your beautiful short hair. I love that. And I'm glad that you're comfy and that you're loving it. Okay. Oh, Terry said she thought the castle where they danced was a magic castle. Well, that's probably true, right? The princes were real. Maybe the castle wasn't, or it was right. It was magical, like the magical woods and the glittering diamonds and the lake. And yeah. Okay. All righty. Well, let's keep moving. I want to show you guys Luminous Magazine. You guys know I do publish a magazine every Tuesday morning with the assistance of several of my amazing colleagues over at One to Listen. So I'm going to share a couple of things from there with you and get on to a little more of our topic. I do think I'll have time for a handful of readings from the chat by the end of the show. So if you wanted a reading, I will peek into it, or I'll do my best. Probably won't get to everybody, but I'll do what I can. Okay. Yeah. Anna said she wishes her hair would grow thicker and fuller and she could grow it out. But but it's grown out into a pixie in quarantine. So it's in the funky in between. Oh, yeah. I've been in the funky in between lots of times. I get that totally. And Belle said, I look 10 if I cut my hair short, and then my little Orphan Annie curls show up. Well, that's kind of fun. The curls. Okay. I posted a link in the chat room to Luminous Magazine. You can also find it by heading over to katie-weaver.com and clicking on the Luminous Magazine button. Just a few things I wanted to talk about. I called the magazine this week the Listen Edition because damn, we aren't good at listening these days. We are so quick to make an assumption. We're so quick to completely shut down when somebody starts talking about something that we don't have a belief in or we've been told differently about. And the art of conversation has suffered immensely. I think mostly because of social media and partly because of how polarized we are right now. But it's amazing to me, and I do it too. I have to really catch myself because somebody starts to say something that you don't agree with, and immediately, A, you feel like you have to defend your base, and B, you completely shut down and cannot hear what they are saying. We have to start listening. We also have to start actually reading and researching. I am stunned at how often people post an article, and I'm not saying that I am immune to this. I really try to vet if I post anything. I rarely post anything, but I'm sure I'm just as guilty. But you absolutely must do your homework because headlines are clickbait, and headlines will say something totally different than the article within actually says. We're seeing that more and more and more. And so somebody will angrily post a meme or an article because of what the headline said, but didn't actually read the article. And it is astonishing to me how often it's not correct. And so whatever you think you're mad about or whatever, you think that you're railing about is probably not completely the story. Headlines really suck. So be sure, read. And if you read an article that evokes a really strong emotional response in you, go look for another one, right? Go look for another one. Make sure that what's being reported is completely accurate and true. And make sure. Because what's happening is that we're seeing these clickbait articles or a meme without, maybe an article attached, and we go, God damn it, and get all pissed off. And it might not be accurate. It might not really be true. We all have to become excellent reporters at this time. I think we should take everything right now with a decent grain of salt. And I'm not saying that all news is fake news. And I'm not saying that the media just completely sucks. There's lots of good media out there. There's lots of good balanced media out there. But for the good, there is a lot of bad. So be sure. That is on the note of listening. My article this week is called Listen, Linda, Listen. Do you guys remember this? I'm sure most of you saw it. If you didn't, where have you been? But it was a little video that went viral on YouTube several years ago with this adorable, sassy, naughty kid, little guy, arguing with his mother, whose name apparently is Linda. And he kept saying, Listen, Linda, listen. You're not listening to me. And she also said, You are not listening to me. But anyway, the argument is kind of adorable and a little bit terrifying. The first time I watched it, I thought it was funny. And then I also thought, I'm glad this isn't my kid because holy hell, wait till he's a teenager with those arguing skills. Yeah, that's going to be rough, Linda. I'm warning you. I'll bet it's been rough. I hope he, goes into an appropriate field. He would definitely make an excellent attorney or something along those lines. But anyway, that phrase, listen, Linda, listen, has become a thing at my house. And if you're trying to get someone's attention, that's what you say. Probably at your house too, to be honest. But I was thinking about listening and how frequently we listen in order to respond. We listen as an autobiographer, right? Everything, and that's human nature. Everything people say to you, your brain is processing through your own experiences. And it is tempting and it is human nature to listen to respond. If you're telling me a story, I want to respond to you with a story. It's an exchange, right? It's an exchange that can be very good and can also be detrimental. The exchange of ain't it awful is something that can drag you down really fast. And the ain't it awful exchange is something like, well, when I was a kid, my parents forced us to go to church. Oh, yeah? Well, when I was a kid, my dad was the pastor, and I had to sit on the front row and listen and behave. Oh, well, when I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? It's the ain't it awful game. Or, I have been so sick. Oh, really? Well, I was in the hospital last week, or whatever. And the energy exchange keeps going. And from an energetic place, it almost becomes an energetic competition. And it also becomes a place where we're dragging each other down. And so that kind of autobiographical conversation is normal. And we do take place, we do take part in it quite a bit, which is completely fine. But there is a warning there from an energetic place that if you're going to have those conversations and you are going to play the game, the energy exchange game or the autobiography game, talk about things that lift you up, share happy, wonderful, excellent things, and encourage your conversation mate to do the same. I'm not saying you can't ever vent. I'm not saying you can't ever have a conversation where you really throw it out all on the table. You should do that. You should have people that you can have those kinds of conversations with. But for the most part, in general conversation, be sure that you're not playing Ain't It Awful. Play Ain't It Wonderful, right? When I was a kid, my grandma would blah, 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 and I'm still so happy she did that. Or when I was a kid, I had a teacher that changed my life forever by yada, yada, yada. And if you can keep conversations there, you will draw wonderful things out of people. You'll help people draw wonderful things out of themselves. But if you fall into ain't it awful, it will be awful. That's kind of where it's at. So just a warning, just an insight there, I think, about basic conversation. But the other part of that is learning how to be an excellent listener. Some of you guys are naturally excellent listeners, and some of you aren't. You're scattered, you're everywhere. You might not know how much other people think you're hard to talk to, right? I know I can be. My kids accuse me of it all the time. And it's something we always have to work on. It's something we really have to think about. Listening with the intent to understand is very different than listening with the intent to respond. It doesn't mean you won't respond, but you may respond differently. If you step out of your autobiographer's shoes and into your reporter's shoes, you can listen with the attempt to understand. It doesn't mean you have to agree with what's being said to you, but it does mean that you have to be respectful and you have to be willing to continue to listen. So it goes something like this. Somebody says to you something like, "Yeah, we went on a trip to Belize last year and it was pretty amazing." The autobiographer would say, "Oh, really? We went on a trip to Costa Rica and it was amazing too." Right? The reporter says, "Really? Why Belize? Who went? How many days did you spend there? What was the greatest thing that happened? Did you have any scary experiences? Would you go back? How do you feel connected to that place?" There's so many questions you could ask, right? And that creates an introspection in the person you're talking to. It creates an opportunity for them to throw back to you some of the things that they might not have told you otherwise. Maybe they'd say, "Well, I've always dreamed about going there," or "My great grandfather is from there." Maybe you wouldn't have known that otherwise. Maybe they'll tell you some amazing stories about their trip that you wouldn't have ever heard if you just came back with, "We went to Costa Rica and it was amazing," right? There's a big difference in the way you listen to understand. Now, in our current climate, these might not be conversations as pleasant as where we went on vacation, right? Perhaps they're more like last night sitting with a friend, I heard her say, "I cannot wait until election day so that COVID can be over." My first inclination was to just kind of roll my eyes and turn my head and go, okay, well, I guess we're done here, right? No, we're not. She can believe that, and I can still love her and be her friend. I don't have to force her to believe what I believe, and I don't have to agree with her. In that moment, we were in a crowd of people in a at a softball game, And it wasn't the time or the place to start a conversation about that, because we were watching our kids play ball, and that was our main focus. However, I thought about that a lot last night and this morning, and thought about how could I have responded in a way that I could have learned her position and understood why she feels that way and what her frustrations are and how much this whole COVID situation has affected her family without putting her down, without immediately defending my belief or my base. I think one thing we have to all be willing to do right now is quit having a base. It's human nature to want to be on a team and on the winning one, right? It's why we end up with these crazy political things that we have in our country where you got to be on a team, you got to be on a side, and your side better be winning by God. And if they're not, you better defend them no matter what. And your side might do things you don't like, they might say things you don't like. The problem is, lots of people speak for the side. So one person says, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody goes, well, this side believes that because this one person who's on that side said that. So everybody on that side believes that, and everybody's wrong. And you go, I didn't say that. And I don't believe that. But if I say that, then what am I doing to my side? Will my side kick me out? Will my side not like me anymore? What? Will my side not want to have anything to do with me? Will I betray my side if I don't agree with everything? Because somehow we have fallen into believing that's true on any side, right? Rather than saying, I don't believe that. And that's the problem with the sides. Yeah. And Deb says it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense though, no matter what base. There's a lot of things that don't make sense right now, regardless of the base, right? I think we all have to really, really examine our own bias, examine our own thinking, and be very willing to not necessarily stand on one side or another. It doesn't mean you can't have an opinion, and it doesn't mean you can't share an opinion. You do have the right to do that. But let's be careful about putting our sides above our relationships, above our family, above our friendships, above ourselves, and maybe our own ethics or our own morality. Also, let's not spend so much time defending our sides. It's a thought. There's things that are going to come up that you are extremely passionate about, but maybe does support your side or doesn't, and that's okay. Sometimes your spirit is going to poke you in the neck and tell you you have to speak up or you have to be involved or you have to something, right? And sometimes your spirit won't leave you alone until you do. And maybe you will speak up. And maybe some people will not like what you have to say. And that's pretty normal in this day and age. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But let's all commit to becoming better listeners. Let's all commit to being able to hear each other without having to judge each other or compartmentalize who they are or what they're saying. It's just a thought. I shared a quote in my musings by Carl Rogers. We think we listen, but very rarely do we listen with real understanding, true empathy. Yet listening of this very special kind is one of the most potent forces for change that I know. And I loved that because the truth is, we all have different life experiences. We all have reasons that we do the things we do. We all have reasons why we behave the way we behave. And while you might not agree with those reasons, sometimes while you might not be able to get behind them, sometimes just asking more questions, listening with empathy, asking the right questions, and being willing to hear them really helps you understand why people feel the way they do or behave the way they do. It makes a big difference. It doesn't mean it's okay, but it makes a big difference when you can understand. I know with my kids, sometimes when they've had a struggle with a friend, I've said something like, okay, but I know she was rude to you, but you need to remember that her parents are getting divorced and her family's going through a really hard time. And a kid would, you know, and has said, I don't care. That doesn't mean she gets to act like that. And I go, you're right. It doesn't mean she gets to act like that. but perhaps it means that you could respond or behave with this person in a little different way. Maybe you could choose to not get your feelings hurt. Maybe you could cut them a little bit more slack, understanding that they're going through something hard right now. Maybe it doesn't justify someone's behavior, but maybe it helps us understand it in a way that we can be kinder. Maybe. We had an experience last night that really rings with me. We right before our game, my daughter plays fast pitch softball. I most of you know this, but and my husband is her coach. She plays on a varsity team, and he coaches her travel team. And we had a game last night at 9 p.m., a late game, and one of our players, who's one of our captains and actually a co or a assistant coach and player, hadn't responded to the text about the game and didn't show up to the game. And she's always there. And she's one of our pitchers and a very prized player on our team, and also just a hell of a great kid. And she wasn't there. And Scott said, "That's really weird that Macy's not here. She's always here and she didn't respond to a text. And that worries me." And Mars said, "Oh, no, I saw something on Snapchat. Let me go back and check." Yeah. Macy's nephew, who is an adorable little 15-month-old kid that has come to most of our games with his grandpa and his dad, choked to death over the weekend. He was, they were at their barbecue, I guess, for the 4th of July, and he choked and they were unable to revive him. And he was on life support and they ended up shutting him down. And Macy wasn't at our game because she was with her family because she's devastated, and we completely understand that in every way. Our girls were devastated to learn this. They were warming up for a game. Even Scott said, "I don't even want to play. I would like to just go home." Well, we can't. There's a team here that wants to play us. Our girls are here. We're going to play our game, right? Our girls didn't play very well. Their mind was somewhere else. Their mind was with their friend and their teammate, Macy, and her family, and this adorable little boy that they've all played with and loved on at our games, and they're heartbroken. Well, the moms of the other team didn't know that. How could they? And this happens to be a team that is challenging to play. They're good players, and we usually are play neck and neck and play deep into tournaments playing against each other. There's some moms on that team that are very vocal and taunt our girls and are really pretty inappropriate at games. And most of the time, you can blow that off. That was really hard to blow off last night. They're jeering and cheering, laughing when we would make a mistake. It was really tough to take. And our parents, who were also grieving and shocked and sad, were our frustration was building and building. And I was getting concerned that we were going to have a confrontation with these people because it was very hard to take. It was beating our girls up on a day they didn't need to be beat up. We lost by quite a bit. The last inning, they finally rallied and got big and excited and put a bunch of points up, but it wasn't enough. And that's fine. We don't have to win every game, right? But those women will never know how cruel they were last night. They will never know how mean they were to a bunch of teenagers whose hearts were just broken. They'll never understand that they were cruel, that they were unkind, and that they went well beyond just cheering for their own daughters in a game on a day when they could have chosen to be kind. They didn't know. Nobody told them. Nobody walked over and sat down and said, you guys need to know what happened to our team tonight and understand that. No one did. I thought about it, but I wasn't sure I could be nice. I wasn't sure they would be nice, to be honest. So they didn't know. So it's hard to put a lot of blame in their laps because they didn't know. But they also don't know that they could have chosen to be kind. They didn't know that they could have chosen to make that game one that was healing, that was just fun, that gave our girls an opportunity to heal a little bit and joining together and playing the game they love on behalf of their teammate that wasn't there. And it makes me sad. It made me sad for our girls. It makes me sad for those women that they didn't have that opportunity. And again, they didn't know. But that's my point. We don't know. You don't know what kind of a battle somebody is fighting. You don't know what's going on in their head or in their home. or behind the scenes. You don't know. It costs you nothing to be kind. It costs me nothing to be kind. I think that kindness and empathy and listening would get us really far right now in this world, really far. So I project to you and to me that we still have a long ways to go, that we can all do better, that we can set a better example, that we can be kinder, we can encourage that, and that we can pave the way in having healing conversations, in giving people all kinds of support, kindness, good examples, and good movement forward. So that's what's on my mind. And we've done it. I promised you some readings. I apologize. We didn't get there today. Next week, right? I want to let you know that I'm a professional psychic advisor over at one2listen.com. I'm there every single day. I can help you with psychic readings, with mediumship, with energy work, with clearings, with animal communication, and probably other things if you came and asked. I promise I will do everything I can to help you feel better than when I found you. That I know. Again, you can find me at one2listen.com, or you can find me on my website, which is katie-weaver.com. I want to thank you all very, very much for being here. Don't forget Keisha's show later this afternoon right here on 12 Radio, the Keisha Angel Show. I would love it. She would love it if you guys would pop in and listen to her brand new show and take part in the chat and be a part of her journey. Very exciting stuff. And congratulations to you, Keisha. I'm excited. So thank you all so much for being here. You've been listening to the Katie Weaver Show here on 12 Radio, where we're changing the way you listen to the world.